Nintendo will start talking about the Nintendo Switch price in January. That's way too long. So let's look at all the info we got right now and see when the new hardware will release. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below, and don't forget to hit that like button. So of course we know that the Nintendo Switch will launch globally in March 2017, and this first piece of information will immediately eliminate 1 week of March. This is based on the fact that Nintendo is planning to sell 2 million units from release till the end of March. Let's look at one of the best selling consoles of all time, for example the PS4, which sold 2.1 million units after half a month on the market in the US and a few days on sale in Europe. Remember that the release month of the PlayStation 4 was also November, where people are spending a ton of money, more than in March. My point is that if Nintendo thinks that they can sell 2 million units by April 2017, then they will not launch in the last week of March, because it's simply not possible to sell 2 million units in 1 week. Xbox One, for comparison, sold 2 million units in 18 days on the market in the US and some of the biggest European countries. But yet again, in November, with Black Friday, the biggest shopping day of the year in the US. So the Switch will probably need some more time. So I think it's safe to say that it will also not release in like the 4th week of March. Well, there's something other that's also interesting that's happening, and that's Monster Hunter XX, a new 3DS game that will launch in Japan on March 18th, 2017. If you didn't know, Monster Hunter is fucking huge in Japan. It's the biggest selling series alongside Pokemon, and Yokai Watch is also somewhere close. Think about it for a second. Why would Nintendo release their new console that can also serve as a handheld in the same weekend as Monster Hunter XX that will launch on 3DS? Why would Person X buy a Switch if fucking a new Monster Hunter game releases on the same day for the handheld he already got? It really makes no sense at all. By the way, consoles in Japan can only launch on weekends, so that means that we can eliminate the weekend of March 18th and 19th for the Switch as well in Japan. Of course, Nintendo can release the Switch later in Japan than in the other territories. They also did it with the Wii U, and Nintendo stresses that the Switch is, although you can take it with you, mostly a home console and not a handheld. Still, the release timing of Monster Hunter XX is really bothering me. The only logic reason I see is that they want to get it out before Monster Hunter, right? They still have the people that will obviously wait for the game, but also a ton of people that will buy the console because Monster Hunter is just coming out later and they're not really busy with it, because that would obviously happen if you release it after Monster Hunter. Nintendo also said something interesting about the 2 million units they expected to sell, that they can also make it higher if the demand is higher. So that again leaves out the last couple of weeks as a release date for the Switch, since they maybe expect to sell more than 2 million units, and if we look again at the Xbox One and PS4 sales, then they need a longer time than just 2 weeks or even 3 weeks to hit the 2 million mark, let alone more than 2 million in a month that is March. I want to point out something else as well, and that's that the 2 million prediction is of course a prediction, so that the stakeholders in the company have a good estimate of what Nintendo plans to sell. Let's be honest here, Nintendo doesn't want to go below the 2 million mark, because that just makes them look bad. On the other hand, if you go above that, then the investors are happy because they got more money than they anticipated. To have a higher chance of going above the expectations, you have to lower them to something that you will probably hit easily. This also means that you want as much time in the month as possible to make sure that you hit the 2 million and can go even above that. So yes, I'm going for the first weekend of March 2017, but there is more. All the previously Nintendo released hardware in the US released on a Sunday. In Europe it released on a Friday, and in Japan it released on Saturday. So why change that now? Why do something that you did for all the previously released consoles and change that for the Switch? Makes no sense. Then we also have the Legend of Zelda Amiibo leak, where the French and UK Nintendo website noted that they were going to launch on March 4th, 2017. Oh, out of all the dates, it says March 4th, 2017, which happens to be the release month of the Nintendo Switch. And oh, by the way, looking at the history, Nintendo launches all their Amiibo on the same day as the game, and therefore Breath of the Wild will probably hit on March 4, 2017. And since there is like a 99% chance that Zelda will be a launch title for the new system, the Switch also has a possibility of hitting that release date. Why Zelda will be a launch title? There are multiple reasons. 1, it has been in development for a while. 2, it will be huge to have that at launch. 3, it happened before with Twilight Princess, with the Wii, and yes, that did really well. For me, that was also the reason to buy the Wii at launch, because they had, apart from the like motion controls and Wii Sport, also a hardcore title that I know that I can put a lot of time in. The number 4 reason, I mean there are a lot of reasons here, is that yeah, they showed it as a first game with the Nintendo Switch launch trailer, of course, so it's like their pillar title. It's 99% chance that Breath of the Wild will be a Nintendo Switch launch title. One last thing that is important to note and will make it all a little bit more complicated is that normally consoles don't launch in the same week in different territories. For example, the Wii U launched in the US on November 18th, 2012 and in Europe on November 13th, 2012. This is simply because of the fact that they want to roll it out as balanced as they can and to launch everywhere all at once. It will just simply be a pain for the marketing department because they really can't focus on one territory then move to the other. The online services will all be hit by multiple consoles at the same time, and yeah, it really sucks to open the box, put your console next to your TV, plug it in, and yeah, have to download like a patch for like multiple hours. So you also don't want that. And of course because of stock, because moving everything to different territories at the same time can also be a pain. So if we put this all in perspective, I think we got a good view of when the Nintendo Switch will release. I think the Nintendo Switch will launch, stick with me here, on March 5th, 2017 in the US, March 10th, 2017 in Europe, or a week earlier if Nintendo can pull it off, but I don't think they can. Then I think March 25th for Japan because of the usual gap. I mean, I told you about the Wii U launch titles. The Wii U launched in November 18th in the US, and it happened to launch in Japan on December 8th. So almost like a month later. And the Switch, like I said already, is more a home console. So the focus is more on the Western markets than Japan. March 25th for Japan is like 1 week after Monster Hunter, so makes sense, they probably want to get it ahead of it, but I don't think that that's possible. Looking at the history and stuff like that. Would be smart though, then it would probably launch on March 11th, so 1 week before Monster Hunter. Or March 4th, because people in Japan can try the Nintendo Switch in January 2017. January 14th to be exact, so 2 days after the prize and release date reveal event. And why give it to Japan first if you release it there later, right? That really doesn't make a lot of sense. So they could release it like earlier in Japan on March 4th, and that's of course the Amiibo leak date. But yeah, that makes it all way more complicated. I still believe that it will launch later in Japan because of how the Wii U and all the other consoles, yeah, just simply release later in Japan because it's not a big console market. On the other hand, this is also a handheld, so that's what gets me busy. Anyway, I will just stick to the March 25th, but like I said, it could also be like the first one to get it. Would also make sense because with handhelds, Japan gets it earlier than us. So to do a quick recap of the Your Game theory about the Nintendo Switch release date, last week of March 2017 and the week before that make no sense because the Switch is expected to sell 2 million copies and consoles like the Xbox One in November didn't even pull that off. So no, probably not. They also said that they can still sell more than 2 million, which means that they probably have a huge time ahead before the end of March. The Switch will launch in the weekend, just like all the other Nintendo hardware consoles have been doing, so that's insane. And we also had this Zelda Amiibo release date on March 4th, so it might be around that time. Let's do my prediction then again. Nintendo Switch will launch on March 5th, 2017 in the US, in Europe on March 10th, 2017 in Europe, and on March 25th for Japan. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like the video if you did. Subscribe for way more theories and predictions on the biggest gaming news. And I will speak to you next time. Thanks a lot for watching. Goodbye.